The Pilots, episode number 40 of Quarantiki. So we made a few changes around the bar, but as you can see, we changed up the netting over here, right? And we have tentacles coming down. I'd love to say that one morning I just came down and the tentacles were reaching for me, but in actuality, it took a little bit of work to get those tentacles up there. Focus on me, because I'm the Leo. Focus on me. All right. Today is actually National Hot Buttered Rum Day, and Star and I have already quaffed a hot buttered rum, so you're not going to get to see us do a hot buttered rum. There is a recipe that I pulled from Jeff Beachbum Berry. I thought what we would do is take you through the pilot drinks. Don, the beachcomber, in 1940s, 41, somewhere around that time, created a drink that he called the Test Pilot. And that drink has gone on to various incarnations at various tiki bars, changing both name and ingredients, sometimes really significantly. And we're going to take you through, because the Test Pilot and the Jet Pilot are both some of my favorite classic tiki drinks. So we're going to take you through that series. We will not take you through like every potential recipe for the Jet Pilot. I hopped on Atomic Grog earlier today, and there will be a link to Atomic Grog in the show notes. But I think, if I'm remembering correctly, on their website, this is the drink that has the most variations on it. So, there's that. We don't have time to go through all of that. But we will do the Jet Pilot, we will do the Test Pilot, and we will do a tribute version of the Mai-Kai's Jet Pilot. So the Mai-Kai being down in Fort Lauderdale. Mai-Kai is currently closed for remodeling. So this is sort of the mothership for all things tiki down in Fort Lauderdale. One of the oldest and largest and most amazing tiki bars and restaurants. So I am to understand, because I have yet to be down in Fort Lauderdale with the time to go to the Mai-Kai. So it will be back. That is the plan, and we will visit the Mai-Kai at some point. But in the meantime, I might as well share some of the tribute cocktails that are on Atomic Grog from their menu. And so that's what we're going to do this evening. We're going to do a Test Pilot, a Jet Pilot, and then we're going to do a Jet Pilot a la tribute to the Mai-Kai recipe. But before we do that, we have two other drinky things that we have to do. The first is, of course, having a toast. Since we don't have the hot buttered rum, since we polished that off, we're going to have to use some other rum for toasting. So we will reach in, we will grab the toasting glasses from Cotton and Reed. Cotton and Reed, guys, we love you. And we're going to reach into the deep, dark past of rum drinking for Lovecraft cocktails. So there was a time when I thought Bacardi Black was like the pinnacle of rum, because, well, it's the only thing I could find that I could actually afford at the time when I was a wee lad. And when I saw things like Pirate rum, I was just amazed and found that I could actually afford Pirate, and I was like, well, clearly this is an amazing rum. And this over the past Christmas, my dear wife presented me with you may remember, she presented me with a rum tasting advent calendar from my rum collection and didn't tell me what the rums were. And we tasted the Pirate, and those of us doing the tasting were like, yeah, this is fine. Not an amazing, and oh my God, where is all the orange coming from? And we didn't realize it. I mean, when I was first drinking Pirate, this tells you how palates change. Just how much orange flavoring is in the Pirate. I don't know where it comes from, but I mean, you can almost use this if you happen to be low on, Curacao or something along those lines. If you include this as part of your rum, you will probably get some of that orange flavor coming through. So we're going to just pour a little Pirate into these glasses. There is nothing wrong with Pirate, especially at Pirate's price point. I'm a bit of a rum snob. We all know that I'm a bit of a rum snob. And Pirate now falls on sort of the low end of the spectrum of the rums that I would normally be mixing with or drinking. That's me, and I own over 100 rums, so as a consequence, Yeah,
dead.
it's dead. It's a really pretty bottle. We're keeping the bottle. Right, we're going to soak the labels off, that sort of thing. So here you go. Here's some pirate. R.
Arr.
Brought to you by the letter R.
Arr.
Tentacles.
New tentacles and getting them up.
Getting them up. Getting them up. You're going to toast to getting it up. All right. They're kind of reaching down, actually, not coming up. So, all right. So what do you think? Pirate.
It's good.
It's good?
Yeah. I mean, it's not.
I mean,
I'm going to.
We're not going to swoon over this.
No. This would be great for sitting, because it's just a little warming. So it'd be great for like sitting out at a
It's really sweet.
fire.
It is sweet.
Yeah. It'd go well with s'mores, sitting out by the fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my
Actually,
thing.
I'd probably like dip a marshmallow in it and stick it in the fire because that would be kind of cool. Yep.
So we have Bonita, we have Bruce, Bruce from the Matt's Myths of Rum class, and also my tequila class.
Right.
And Dana. And Dave.
Russ found a rum agricole. Oh, excellent.
Ooh,
yay.
nice.
You'll have to tell me like in the notes what rum agricole.
The lava lamp is actually working this week.
Yay. Yeah, it's not all like little bubbles and stuff. So yeah, it either gets too hot or it's not hot enough or something. It's old. It's older than our relationship. So yeah, it's old. So, you know, we give it, you know,
if I remember correctly, well, I know this was in my apartment my sophomore year of college. I think I got it at Spencer Gifts in high school.
That would make sense. Did you work at Spencer?
I did work at Spencer.
You got it on a discount, didn't you?
I did. I got it at a discount.
You know, we can afford a full price lava lamp now. I know.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
But it works.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So.
You know what also works?
What?
The Black Lagoon Room website works.
It does.
And you know what happens when places like the Black Lagoon Room work? I get swag because my wife loves me.
Swag or presents?
Presents, right. This came in the mail. So you may have noticed when we were panning around and looking at the tentacles, there's a patch up there. It says Mai-Tai Till I Die. Well, now I have a Mai-Tai Till I Die. Why am I showing it to the computer? You guys can't see that. There we go. Mai-Tai Till I Die. Double rocks glass, which is pretty awesome. And a stir stick. Yay. Coaster, patches. And then for the cocktail apron, I have the Mai-Tai Till I Die pin back. Right? So that's all very cool. Not this year, because we didn't actually do one, but the Craft Bartenders Association out of DC traditionally does a Repeal Day ball. And the last year, which was 2019, that it was held, Star and I got to go, and I had a great big black top hat on, and I had that patch, the Mai-Tai Till I Die, plastered right in the middle of the top hat. And trust me, I got many, many compliments on the Mai-Tai Till I Die. If you're wondering about what other things besides just Mai-Tai Till I Die they have. You might remember some months back, I showed off a tiki mug that is like a Chinese food container with an octopusy thing coming out. That's from Black Lagoon Room. We have a couple of other pieces from them. They do great stuff. They're nice people. There'll be a link, obviously, in the show notes. Yeah, I'm going to start trying to call them show notes. I'm also going to try to stop saying so much. Turns out, as I was reviewing these, I say a lot. So yeah, let's not do that. And you can all waggle fingers at me every time I say or every time I say unintentionally. The Pilot series of cocktails, originating in 1940, 1941 with Don the Beachcomber, is a spicy, alcohol-forward tiki drink. And as a consequence, it may not be exactly what my dear Heartlove is looking for in cocktails this evening. Although I think the last one she's going to like. That means I need to get something into her before I start doing all of this stuff. So what we're going to do is, in keeping with the Pilot theme, we are going to start with a completely and utterly non-tiki drink. We are going to do a craft drink from the Prohibition era, called the Aviation. The Aviation is essentially, as are many, many drinks, just a gin sour. So it is going to have gin in it. It is going to have some sort of sour. In this case, we're going to use lemon juice. And then the sweet component is going to be split amongst two different liqueurs. One of which is Luxardo, which is a maraschino liqueur. And yes, I need to transfer this to a smaller bottle because I have a lot of it and this is really hard to pour. So I'll do that at some later time, but not right now. The other, I also have in a gigantic bottle and need to transfer to something smaller, is creme de violet. One of the tricks with making an aviation is not to use too much creme de violet, unless you happen to like drinking lavender soap, because that's what it'll taste like. But this is a vibrant bluish purple color, and the whole point of this drink is that, well, okay, it should be tasty, but it should also be sort of reminiscent of a purplish blue sky, right? Hence the name Aviation. So we're going to try that. This is a shaken cocktail. So we're going to start here. It starts with 2 ounces of gin, and we are going to, having pulled this from the freezer, you can tell the frost on here, we're going to use 2 ounces of Blue Coat. That's a North American dry gin. I have a jigger around here. Yeah, I have many jiggers around here. So 2 ounces.
Oh, you want to talk about how you saw Matt pouring?
2 ounces. Oh, right. So Star reminds me that I discovered something about my my pouring technique. Here we go. We're going to go with technique here. With particularly the Leopold jigger, which is what this is, but also with the Japanese style, the tall, thin jiggers, I tend to hold them like this and then just flip the wrist over to dump them into my cocktail. What I discovered though is that that's not a very stable point, and I sometimes miss. I don't get quite where I want it to go. There's not a whole lot of guidance there. So what I'm trying to do now is teach myself that if I want to hold the jigger like this between the forefinger and the index finger, that I should stick a thumb down here at the bottom to provide a lot more guidance, a lot more control over it. It doesn't tend to wiggle. Or flip the hand over, hold it like this, and I can put a finger right here, right along the rim, put a thumb right there. And then instead of using this technique, which would be hugely awkward, bend my wrist, do it this way. And this is, I saw, I don't know, I was watching other bartenders online do this, and I was like, oh, wait, they're stabilizing their jigger. Who knew, right? So, yeah, so we're going to try doing that. Try. We will. 2 ounces, right. I was like, wait, did I put 1 ounce in there or 2 ounces in there? Try never to stop in the middle of making a cocktail, because when you do, you're like, what's in there? This is also a good reason for starting with your inexpensive ingredients, because if you're like, wait, what all did I put in there? If it's only the cheap ingredients, you can just toss them and start over. But if it's your good stuff, like the Blue Coat Gin, then you're stuck. You're like, what do I do with that? You probably pour it in a glass. We need 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. Of course, we're going to use fresh squeezed lemon juice. Lemon juice. So let's try this. Leopold jigger. There you go, 3/4 line. Right there. And it goes. See, easy peasy, lots of control. Next up, we need 1/2 ounce of the Luxardo. You would think that being a maraschino liqueur, that it would taste like maraschino cherries. It doesn't. It's actually made from the pits of the cherries. It tastes nothing really, to my mind, like cherries. There's a little, maybe a hint of cherry on the nose. I honestly don't know how to describe Luxardo's flavor. It's Luxardo. It's a very distinctive flavor. There you go. We are not delving into that flavor any more than that. It is also a primary ingredient in Hemingway daiquiri, variation of the daiquiri. It also uses grapefruit juice and a few other things. The other advantage also of pouring this all in at one time is that I could have just gone to the 1/2 ounce mark here in the jigger and then filled the creme de violet up to the 3/4 mark and just done one toss into the into my shaker tin. Very purple, I'm going to scant this just a little under a quarter ounce. All right, that goes in there. Spin that shut. I'm going to throw some cubed ice in here, and then I'm going to have to make my wife work for her drink. We're going to serve this in a chilled coupe, and those would be in our freezer. So we're going to use a full scoop here. And when it got a little extra ice, I'm going to do about another half. Nope, pull some of that out. So I want the shaker full, but I also want to be able to close it. So as a consequence, we are now going to close that, like such. I'm going to wait for my wife to pass, because I don't want to, like, with the shaker. That would be bad. Shaker? Yep. Then she'd really need a cocktail, and I'm not sure what I would need. It would have to be stronger than a cocktail. All right, I'm going to shake this. Nice and frosty. Yeah, I'm not even conscious of the ums, which is really bothering me. I'm going to grab a strainer with a tight weave on it, and I'm going to double strain this, which means I need a second strainer. This would be like a tea strainer. And we're just going to pour that directly in the coupe. And this is just, it's opalescent in color. It's not, it doesn't have a distinctive blue color in it. There's a little hint of the purple, which is all good, because that means I probably got the amount of creme de violet appropriate. If I had gotten more in there, if it looks distinctly blue, I guarantee you this is going to taste like lavender, or not lavender, but your grandmother's hand washing soap, that stuff. And we don't want it to taste like that. You can leave this as is. You can drop a Luxardo cherry in there, or you can just simply leave it as is with no garnish, which I think is what I am going to do with this one. So, dear wife, here is a coupe filled with an Aviation.
Yay!
Which in no way is any kind of precursor to the Pilot tiki cocktails, but it's yummy anyway. So, cheers to Aviation, which had its start here in the United States, powered flight. So, Aviation, yum. Classic Prohibition-era cocktail. To those of you that are paying close attention, those are the exact same proportions as I traditionally make my daiquiris with. 2 ounces rum, 3/4 ounce syrup, 3/4 ounce sour. And just in this case, the syrup is being played by the Luxardo and the creme de violet. Tasty. You really want these to be, like with most gin drinks, like a martini, I want them to be hyper crisp cold. I probably should have shaken this for just a tinge longer. It's all right. I'm going to knock this back, and then we are going to proceed on to talk about the drinks that I want to talk about, which is the Test Pilot and the Jet Pilot. One down. 3 to go. Okay, so 1941 Test Pilot Don the Beachcomber. This features a number of different things that became Don the Beachcomber trademarks, chief of which is blending rums together. Now, nowadays, we think of this as nothing out of the ordinary, blending different rums to get different flavor profiles for tiki cocktails. But back in the day, the idea of blending different spirits together to get a cocktail flavor, especially different versions of the same spirit, was kind of unheard of. Matt Petrick the other day was talking in our class about the fact that comparing rum to something like bourbon or single malt scotch is really comparing very much apples to fruit, in the sense that bourbon and cognac and scotch are all very narrowly defined, whereas rum has definition to it, but there are so many different types of rum, and each one has its own definition, largely national in origin. It is much more appropriate to compare rum as a category to a category like whiskey, like all of whiskey. And I have no idea where I was going with this. Oh, which means if you would ever use different whiskeys in a cocktail, to make a particular flavor profile, or a cocktail calls for a particular blended whiskey. Aha, see what they're doing there is you're cheating by going to a blend that already has the flavor profile you're looking for. Back in 1941, you didn't have these blended rums rolling around for Don to use, so Don was blending his own rums in order to make the flavor profiles that he wanted. This also features ingredients like falernum, which, what the heck is falernum? So we're going to be using John D. Taylor's Velvet Falernum, product Barbados. This is bottled by RL Seal and Company. Citrus, almond, spice. There's something else in there. Ginger. Trying to remember what the other prominent flavor in falernum is. This is a much lighter syrup. Definitely a syrup, definitely sweet. Much lighter syrup than orgeat, and a little more complex than orgeat. So this is featured, which is going to give it a distinctive profile that you wouldn't ordinarily get. It also features yet another characteristic of Don's drinks, which is the addition of very small amounts of other liquors and other flavors just to get that complexity note exactly where he wants it. And as a consequence, you'll see us using very small amounts of Angostura and very small amounts of absinthe in this cocktail. So let's do this. So the test pilot is going to be a blended drink. So we are going to use a blender tin to build this in. We'll put crush ice in it, and then we will stick it under my wearing blender over here for about 5 seconds. Flash blend. Starts with an orange liqueur. This is the syrup that goes in here. So it's a ½ ounce of an orange liqueur. You can use Cointreau. You can use any form of triple sec. You could use Grand Marnier. Because it calls for Cointreau, and Cointreau, at least in my mind, is a little bit drier than the triple secs that you normally get, I'm just going to go ahead and reach for my dry curacao. It is my staple for orange flavor in my tiki drinks. ½ ounce falernum. So this is going to be all of our sweet component. It is the falernum and the dry curacao, which is not a particularly sweet drink, you might note. Where is that ½ ounce mark? There it is. That time I used the thumb. See? Right there. Use the thumb. Lime juice. ½ ounce. Gotta love recipes like this where most of the ingredients are in the same proportion. You have to wonder if these recipes were actually made in parts rather than like ½ ounce. If all of these things that are a ½ ounce were 1 part and they just batched these things in tubs or something, it wouldn't surprise me, because they were serving at their height. Man, Beachcombers was serving a lot of these things. 2 different rums here. We need 1½ ounces of a dark Jamaican rum, and we are going to go and use the Plantation Jamaica for that. I generally batch everything except the alcohols that go in the cocktail, so that I don't have to muss with the lemon juice and the Angostura and blah, 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 all those other, the various juices that go in it or syrups. All I have to do is add the alcohol to them. That tends to speed things up quite a bit. A light Puerto Rican rum, and in this case we are going as light as we possibly can. I'm going to use the Havana Club from Puerto Rico. This is the Bacardi's entry into the Havana Club line. And we're going to go ahead and use this because really we don't need a whole lot of flavor coming from this rum. We're going to get it from the Jamaican rum that we really want to taste, and then we want all of the other ingredients to shine through. So while we need the additional 3/4 of an ounce of rum here to give this some backbone to hold up to those other ingredients, you don't want anything that's going to bring any real strong flavors to the party. So this is one of those cases where I'm going to switch off my usual light white rum and not use the Plantation 3-Star. I'm going to use the Havana Club because I want a really, really clean flavor profile that isn't going to mess with the other flavor profiles. Single dash of Angostura. 1. Only 1. There you go. 1 dash Angostura. and then 6, count them, 6 drops of absinthe. I'm using Mountain Defiance. Mountain Defiance has a slightly higher percentage alcohol absinthe and a very, very pronounced flavor. So I'm going to go with 4 drops just because I know what this is in comparison to maybe more usual absinthes. So we are going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I like absinthe. 5? Should we go 5? What do you think? 5? Yeah, let's go 5. I'm going to say the dropper's small, so I'm going to go with 5. All right. There you have it. So we have orange liqueur, falernum, lime juice, a dark Jamaican rum, a light Puerto Rican rum, Angostura bitters, and absinthe. Full cup of ice goes in here. And this ice should be crushed. I'm going to go with a full scoop, just one. Throw a couple of agitator cubes in there. It's a trick picked up from Smuggler's Cove. They use little agitator cubes, which are normal size ice cubes in with their crushed ice. Tends to break up the ice a little better and get a little more cold off of it. It's going to go under the blender, high speed for no more than about 5 seconds. So here we go. 1001, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're done. Stops the spinning. Grab a paper towel, clean off the blade. And this gets poured straight into a double old-fashioned glass. We're going to go ahead and use our Archipelago from Washington, D.C. The guys are on a break. We love them. They're on a break for the beginning of the year, yeah, and because of the inauguration. So, yeah. So we're going to go ahead and give a shout out to Archipelago. Test pilot. This goes right in there. And as you might suspect, this is a little short of the wash line for a double rocks glass. What's our usual tack for that? We'll throw in a little clean crushed ice for it. Top that off. Nice, pretty clean ice at the top. Need a straw in there. Got a nice fat green straw from Surfside Sips, because we love them. And we need some sort of garnish for this. How about just a swizzle stick? I'm going to just reach in here and grab one. What is this one? This one, well, what do you know? It's from Archipelago. Nice. Swizzle stick, straw, Archipelago. Here we go. This is Test Pilot. Classic tiki drink. I love the hints of absinthe in this drink. That is delightful, and it's actually not as weird as you might expect. The Angostura comes through.
Wow, your whole bar smells like absinthe.
I know. Isn't that just amazing? And it's just a little bit of absinthe. Oh, while she's tasting that, I'm going to show you the latest thing that we got. So at some point...
So there's
what?
YouTube we watch called How to Drink with Greg.
Right. Greg.
And
I don't remember what Greg's last name is.
His last name.
He doesn't know us, so yeah, it's that Greg guy that does How to Drink. Still better than just referring to him as the How to Drink guy.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
So
we now have a name.
We have a name.
He did a couple older episodes that we watched about gadgets and stuff, and Pooch got some new toys.
So, one of my favorite drinks, one of my favorite craft cocktails, not a tiki drink, is a Sazerac.
That's good.
And the Sazerac traditionally has absinthe in the glass and is just rolled in the glass, and the rest of the absinthe is disposed of. Or in my case, it's poured into another glass and goes down my throat. There are other ways of getting that same sort of hint of absinthe in the glass. One of which is to use like a little kitchen misto. You just pump the thing and you just spray it a couple of times, either at the end of the drink or prior to building the drink in the glass.
A sip of this?
Do I want a sip of this? perhaps I was wrong that she wouldn't like these. They're only going to get more complex from here on out, which there's another interesting feature of Dawn's drinks. This is, by some accounts, a fairly straightforward drink in terms of the number of ingredients that are in it. You'll see that by the time we get to the 1950s, and we're looking at Stephen Crane's version of this cocktail for his bar, the Luau in Beverly Hills, that the number of ingredients has widened some. But before we go there, we were talking kitchen gadgets that are used for craft cocktails. Here we have a typical plant mister. Yes, plant mister. Usually what you use this for is for misting delicate plants when you want to get a little bit of water on them. You just fill this up with water and you go squirt, 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 and you spray water all over your bar, right? This puts out a very fine mist, which is slightly controllable by this adjustable knob right here. And you can take your glass that you're going to be building your sazerac in, have this filled with absinthe, just do like a single squirt on the inside of this glass, and it will coat the glass really nicely with absinthe. So that's what this baby is going to be used for. So there you have it. There is the test pilot from 1941 Dawn Beachcomber. The next version of this drink, so amazingly popular drink. Everybody loves this drink when it comes out, and for about a decade or so, everybody was trying to do copies of it. And one of the copies that came into significant rotation, 1958 version, which at this point is called the Jet Pilot. So we've gone from the test pilot to the Jet Pilot. I will say that if you go to any tiki bar on the planet and they have either a Jet Pilot or a test pilot on the menu, you might want to inquire as to what is in them and how they are made, just because there was so much copying going on and so many different names. So there's the Jet Pilot, the Ace Pilot, the Space Pilot, Test Pilot, the Astronaut, were all variations of this, and sometimes the only variation was the name, and sometimes the variation was not the name, but ingredients, and sometimes it was both. So, the 41 is the canonical, yea, verily, this is Dawn Beach's drink. Other versions do strange things, but this is a fairly standard version that we know the recipe for coming out of Steve Crane's restaurant, the Luau. So we're going to make that, and this is in fact one of my favorite tiki drinks. The 151 Swizzle, the Mai-Kai, obviously, 3 dots and a dash, and whether they have the test pilot or the Jet Pilot or some other variation on it, one of those are my go-to drinks at tiki bars. Now, I always like to explore what the rest of the menu option is, but almost assuredly, I will order one of those cocktails at a tiki bar. At least, certainly my first time. Unless there's a signature drink for the bar, and then I'll always order the signature drink because they're putting their best foot forward for that signature drink, right? So if that's not any good, then I'm drinking gin and tonics the rest of the night. No, I would never do that to a tiki bar. No matter how bad the tiki bar is, I'm not doing gin and tonics at a tiki bar. I just drink straight rum, depending on their rum list. So, Jet Pilot. This is also a blended drink. All of the Pilot series are going to be blended drinks. Thank goodness I have multiple blender tins. There's one here that's dirty, but that's okay. We're going to start with syrup. Syrup? But there was no syrup in the previous drink. The previous drink only had orange liqueur and falernum. So we're going to get a similar but not the same flavor profile, and we're going to use different ingredients for this cocktail. So I'm going to use cinnamon syrup, or in this case, I'm not actually going to use cinnamon syrup. I'm going to use my spiced syrup, because it is largely cinnamon based, but has other flavors in it that I really like, and so we're going to go ahead and use that. I generally don't keep a bottle of cinnamon syrup and a bottle of spiced syrup around. I keep one or the other, and it's almost always the spiced, because I can use it anytime it calls for cinnamon syrup, but if it calls for a spiced syrup, I can't use a cinnamon syrup to get the same effect. So I usually keep a bottle of the spiced syrup lying around. Half ounce. Gee, that sounds familiar. Half ounce. This is 2-to-1, by the way, just as an FYI. You probably knew that. Long-time fans, short-time fans, anybody that's listened to me babble on about syrups. Babylon 5. No references. Okay, so a half ounce of syrup. Then a half ounce of falernum. Okay, all right, so the falernum is in common. That's good. Half ounce, still same proportion. Really should have put a speed pourer on this, since I know I'm going to be using falernum a lot tonight. I'm getting better, do you know? So I did put the thumb down here. I'm still, it just is not, doesn't feel right to grab it like this. I have to make a conscious thought to grab it like that, whereas grabbing it like this works for me for some reason. I don't know. Half ounce lime juice, so that's familiar. That seems the same. I'm doing better about putting the thumb on the jigger than I am about remembering to not say New ingredient goes in this. White grapefruit juice. Huh? There was no juice in the previous drink other than lime juice. Why are we adding grapefruit juice? It's a slightly larger drink. It's about a half ounce more total liquid in this drink. And the grapefruit and the cinnamon actually works really, really well together. But you can tell this is a different drink. It has some similarities, but it's definitely a different drink. Half ounce. What we do lose is the orange. There's no orange curacao in this. There's no orange flavor whatsoever in this cocktail. The orange flavor is taken over by the grapefruit. Okay. Now we get to our rums. And we have an addition to the rum list. So instead of just a dark Jamaican rum and a light rum, in this case, we're going to have a dark Jamaican rum. We're going to swap out the light rum for a golden Puerto Rican rum. And then we're actually going to add some 151. Oh, this gets a little more spirit forward here, which is part of the reason why you have to add a little more volume on the juices. Otherwise, this thing will really kick your butt, which is kind of why I prefer the jet pilot to the test pilot. But what are we going to do? We're going to stick with, because I don't want to get too far out of the bounds of the first drink that we did, we are going to stick with the Plantation Jamaica as our Jamaican, dark Jamaican. And we are putting in 1 ounce of this dark Jamaican. So we go from 1.5 ounces to 1 ounce. Okay, so we're dropping the amount of the Jamaican rum in there. Okay. We want to go with a gold Puerto Rican rum. So what does that mean? Okay. The difference between these two. We all know that the color coding scheme for rums doesn't make any sense. White rum, gold rum, doesn't make any difference. But there is some translation that has to go on. So at the time, they were saying white Puerto Rican rum. They are almost always talking about a rum that is pretty highly distilled, isn't going to bring a lot of flavors to the party. Column still, definitely. If they specify a gold Puerto Rican rum, then they're expecting there to be a little more flavor to that. Probably a little more aging, although you can't really tell because often the white rums coming out of Puerto Rico, well, all Puerto Rican rums have to be aged at least a year. But most of the white rums coming out of Puerto Rico are aged, and then they are charcoal or otherwise carbon filtered in order to bring them back to the white color. So you really can't tell. But the flavor profile of that rum is a very clean, isn't bringing a whole lot to the party. The Ron de Berlito 3-star, still a very clean rum, but it has a pronounced flavor that it's bringing, and it's, I mean, it's not one note, it's still pretty simple in its flavor profile. So we are going to use this instead of using the white rum. So the white rum goes away, and we're putting in a 3/4 ounce, is that right? 3/4 ounce of the gold Puerto Rican rum, which is exactly the same amount as we had of the light rum. And then we're going to kick this up with some 151. And at the time, the 151 of choice would probably have been Lemon Heart or something similar. And that's what we're going to use. when Lemon Heart went away, when you couldn't get this rum anymore, the Demerara 151, Ed Hamilton brought a 151 to the market, and you could easily substitute Hamilton's 151 for this. So 3/4 of an ounce of Lemon Heart 151. Oh, that's spit up a little bit on my finger. Oh, yum. That's okay. I'm all right with that. 1 dash Angostura. There you go. 1 dash of Angostura. 6 drops absinthe. Most recipes actually call for Pernod or pastiche or something else along those lines. Absinthe is not only perfectly good as a substitute, would probably be preferred at the time if they could have gotten it. We're going to do the same thing we did last time, which is we're going to go with 5 drops. If it calls for 6 and I went 5 last time, I want to do exactly the same thing. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. You can go there. If you don't like black licorice, yeah, don't ever do that with absinthe, because that's the flavor profile you're going to get from it. Okay, this is actually slightly more alcohol. This is about 3/4 of an ounce more alcohol. So obviously it's going to call for more ice. Nope. Steve Crane evidently had a heavy pour, because this calls for half the amount of ice the previous drink did. So instead of a full scoop, we're only going to go half a scoop. 4 ounces of ice. Going to do exactly the same thing we did before. 5-second flash blend. Grab the paper towel. Much more liquidy drink. And this wouldn't have been served in a double rocks glass. It would have been served in an old-fashioned glass. And this is old-fashioned glass or single rocks glass as opposed to double rocks. And we happen to have one of those from Appleton Estate. Pour straight in. And we'll do the same thing we did last time, which is top that off with a little crushed ice. Oh, looks like it needs a little bit more. There we go. Ta-da! Here we have it. This would be the Jet Pilot as opposed to the Test Pilot. Need a straw in there. What do you think? Tentacle? Tentacle straw?
Yeah.
Also from Surfside Sips. There. Tentacle. Gotta love the tentacle straws. So we'll stick that in there.
It's like there's a theme to your
Yeah. Like there's a theme, maybe. I'm going to reach in and grab yet another random stir. What do we have here? Dun dun dun. Bienville House Motel in New Orleans. This is Latitude 29. This is Beach Bum Berry's own tiki bar down in the heart of the French Quarter, New Orleans. This is Jet Pilot.
It's a little forward for me.
There's just so much more going on with this than the Test Pilot.
And this is where Pooch and I diverge.
You saw how much she liked the Jet Pilot, or the Test Pilot.
Right.
But the Jet Pilot is a little further out there for her.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we put a little more ice in it and maybe like a squirt of orange juice or something in there, you might be okay.
But you can get a drink every once in a while.
Every once in a while, I get a drink. All right.
Yeah. We went to another online thing run by Museum of Distilled Spirits, hosted by Matt Petrick.
About of Minimalist Tiki.
Right. About myths, debunking myths of rum. There is a class coming up. It's a 4-part class on the history of rum. History, agriculture, production recommendations.
Right. So
and they're doing that with a bunch of different spirits.
Right.
We're going to do the rum one. We probably won't do the tequila one. They do some good classes, and we're having fun with them.
We are. And Matt is... okay, I've never had the opportunity to meet Matt in person. I would love to sometime in the after times. But I gotta say, just meeting the guy online, he seems like an absolute sweetheart. So there you go. And he is amazingly encyclopedically knowledgeable about rum, which, if you think I know something about rum, I know nothing compared to what Matt knows about rum. Cheers. So the third version of the Pilot saga. Mentioned Fort Lauderdale, mentioned the Mai-Kai. Atomic Grog, as a website, has an entire section devoted to the cocktails of the Mai-Kai, both past and present, the ones that have been retired, the ones that are currently in play, the ones that might come back. And they have spent... the Mai-Kai retains the history of closely guarding the secrets of how their cocktails are made. They get little snippets of information come out every once in a while. And the guys over at Atomic Grog have made a career about trying to figure out what these recipes are, or if not finding out what the recipes are, coming as close to the flavor, texture, and color profiles of those cocktails as they possibly can. One of the favorite drinks is, of course, the Jet Pilot. And as a consequence, they've tried many times to do versions of the Jet Pilot, trying to keep up with how the Mai-Kai has changed their Jet Pilot. And as they learn more about how the Mai-Kai does things, changing the recipe to try and get something that more closely approximates what they're seeing from the Mai-Kai. So what I thought I would do is take one of these tribute recipes that shows you, wow, that's a Jet Pilot? I guess. It certainly seems like it's in the Pilot family, but that's weird. One of the things that they discovered is that one of the bartenders that they were speaking to spilled the beans. The Mai-Kai does not use cinnamon syrup. They just don't. None of their drinks, they don't use cinnamon syrup in any of their drinks. They get that flavor profile in other ways, which forced them, the guys at Atomic Grog, to adjust how they were thinking about the cocktail and how they would make the cocktail. The second factor is they found that their cocktails, their tributes, were coming out way too brown. They were a brownish color, and what was being served to them as a Jet Pilot at the Mai-Kai was more reddish in color. And so what I'm going to do this evening is the third variant, or the third tribute to the Mai-Kai's version of the Jet Pilot. We'll try and make that. Now, I warn you, I have never made this drink. I have never had a Jet Pilot from the Mai-Kai. I have no idea how close this is to their recipe. I have no idea how close the drink is, regardless of whether the recipe is close. No idea how close this is to the actual flavor profile of the Mai-Kai's version. Nor do I have any idea, really, what this drink is going to taste like, other than I'm hoping it tastes something like a Jet Pilot, because, well, I like Jet Pilots. However, this drink is fairly far afield from the other two versions. At least with the Test Pilot and the Jet Pilot, you could certainly see the lineage. You could see how they were connected. You pull a couple of ingredients out, you put a couple more ingredients in, you change up the rum profiles a little bit. And it may very well have been that Steve Crane needed to go to that additional rum in order to replicate the flavor of rums that were actually being done in 1941, because of course rums change as well, and what is available changes over time. So, that said, this one's going to be different, so hold your horses. Be prepared to go on a journey. First, still blended. Okay, it's got that in common with the Pilot drinks. The syrup portion is different. The syrup portion uses honey syrup, which it's right here. I discovered the other day that I was completely and utterly out of honey syrup. How did that happen? I know. So I made up a batch of honey syrup earlier today, and because I knew that I was going to be making this tribute cocktail, We also know one other important information about all of the syrups that the Mai-Kai uses. All of their syrups are 2-to-1, sugar to water. So their honey syrup is a 2-to-1 syrup. So this is unlike usually when I'm doing my honey syrups. Almost everything I do is 2-to-1 except the honey, which is usually 1-to-1. This honey syrup is a 2-to-1 mix. By the way, making honey syrup is a great way to use up crystallized honey. Just you pry it out of the container, you stick it in by volume, you know how much volume that is, you fill it up with whatever liquid honey you've got, and then you either 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 that with the water, and either shake the bejesus out of it until it goes into solution, or you can actually warm it up a little bit to cause the crystals to break up, and then put it back in solution. And see, that works out really nicely, because there used to be a great big chunk of honey in here, and it's clearly gone. Well, maybe not so clearly. 3/4 of an ounce honey syrup, 2-to-1. There we go. Then we start to head into normal territory. A 1/2 ounce of falernum. All right, so that's okay. 1/2 ounce of falernum, we know where that is. That is in common. By the way, this does not go back to the early recipe either. We are not suddenly going to add curacao back into this thing. What's next? Next is an ingredient I have never used before. I've never actually ever seen this ingredient. I've never seen it advertised. I've never been able to buy this ingredient. I have seen recipes for it, and I have generally come to the conclusion that, wow, there are so few recipes that call for this ingredient. It is so not worth the effort to put into it. But if you hunt around on Atomic Grog, you find out that there are ways of getting around this, and that they have substitutions for ingredients. So the ingredient in question is called Fassionola. And Fassionola is... There are lots of articles written about Fassionola, because I don't think there is any real agreement on exactly what Fassionola is as a syrup. And it is very likely that Fassionola was a name to describe a very potent, tart syrup that had like berry characteristics to it and was bright, vibrant red in color. Although there is a gold version, it's not entirely different, but it's definitely different. But this cocktail from the Mai-Kai requires red Fassionola. I don't have any red Fassionola. I don't even have any Fassionola. Although that is going to be resolved. Actually, that's on its way to me already. So, yay! So I have a bottle here which takes one of the substitutions and says, oh, you could make Fassionola this way, or something that approximates Fassionola in this way. 1-to-1 mixture of raspberry syrup and dark, rich grenadine. So we used the grenadine, Jack Ruby grenadine, and mix that 1-to-1. And they said that kind of approximates the Fassionola that you've got. All right, so we're going to go with that. Fassionola. First time ever, you're seeing it. First time using this on the bar. 1/2 ounce of Fassionola. You know, they didn't mix up a whole lot of this. Like, I don't know what this is going to do to the drink. I don't know how it's going to taste. We're going to find out. 3 sweet ingredients. That's unusual. Honey syrup, falernum, Fassionola. 3/4 ounce lime. Okay, so we're upping the lime just a little bit, from 1/2 ounce to 3/4 of an ounce. Probably to compensate for all that sweetness. That would make sense. And again, note, I put all my syrups in first, and then I'm putting my citric in. And I'm doing that using the same jigger, because that will pull all of the sticky ingredients out of my jigger. But we are going to up the amount of Angostura. We're actually going to go 2 dashes of Angostura and the same number of drops of absinthe. I know. I'm going to get to the rum. Just don't worry about it. So we're going to go.
Trust you, there'll be rum.
Trust me, there will be run. Run. It's late. Tomorrow's a holiday. Life is good. 2 dashes Angostura, 1, 2 dashes of Angostura. 6 drops, or in this case, because of the amount Defiance that we're using, we're going to go with 5 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put that back in. You like this? Little tiny little green bottle. Comes with the dropper. We got a whole mess of these when we ordered bottles for the tiki party. I have a desire someday to put together a steampunk costume where I am like the steampunk bartender with a bandolier that is, consists of these things running down it and a little pouch on the side that's got all, my rums and that sort of things. A steampunk tiki bartender. Just because I think that would be delightfully cool. And, why not? Because you can. Steampunk, when Goss discovered the color brown. Yay. So, test pilot. 2 rums, 2 rums. Jet pilot, 3 rums. Mai-Kai jet pilot, 4 rums. So, all right. Now, this is the tribute. So this is the tribute. This is the guys at Atomic Grog trying to recreate the flavor profile. And part of what they are doing is they are trying to recreate rums that Mai-Kai uses that maybe you can't get a hold of. So there's a rum that Mai-Kai uses or used to use. It was the Kohala Bay Black Rum. They also used a rum called Dagger, which is like you can't get. So they're using 4 different rums to get the approximation of the flavor that they found in the Mai-Kai's version of the Jet Pilot. 3/4 ounce white Puerto Rican or Virgin Island rum. Well, we know what that looks like. We're going to go with the Havana Club. 3/4 ounce. Zen Gold Rum. 1 ounce Gold Rum. We're going to use the Ron de Barrilito. It's gold Puerto Rican or Virgin Island rum. You could also get away with using something like the Angostura 1919. That would be perfectly fine. You want a clean column still rum that's got a little bit of age on it. Ron de Barrilito 3-star. Perfect for this. I haven't mentioned this in a while. Speed pourers. Speed pourers make for much more accurate pouring than just an open bottle. And I love these little plastic guys. Why do I love these plastic guys? Because I don't have to worry about slipping a cap on them or something along those lines every evening after I've made cocktails. These have just this twist on them that opens it up for pouring or closes it off for pouring to keep it from allowing oxidation. So you can just slip one of these bad boys on, and then as long as you've got it closed, it's just as good as a cap or a cork on it. 3rd rum. You're right. Dark Jamaican. We're going to go with the Jamaica. 3/4 ounce. 3/4 ounce. There we go. Obviously, you can kick this drink up. You can use much higher quality rums. I'm using sort of my middle shelf rums. Well, I mean, the Havana Club is sort of my low end rum. These are all, they're things I use on the bar all the time. You could easily kick this up for the Jamaican. You could do Appleton 12-year or something really more funky, and it would completely and utterly change the drink. In fact, if you were to use something like a Worthy Park or a Hamden from Jamaica that's really, really rich and Jamaica-y and funky, I might cut out the 151. Yeah, I might do that. That was a deliberate That was a thoughtful pause. Lemon Heart 151. Yes, the 4th rum in here. Full ounce of this. So we have gone from no 151 to 3/4 ounce to a full ounce of 151. We're going to drop. We go back to a full cup of ice. You'll all be happy to know we're going to go back to a full cup of ice. I'm going to use a full scoop. Set that there. How many seconds do you think? Yeah, you're right, 5. So I'm expecting that this will be more red than this cocktail. Let's find out, shall we? I love this stuff. It is also a flammable liquid. It says so. Right back here, it says you can light this stuff on fire. You can. Why would you light this on fire? Light some other dreck like, oh, nope, I should not badmouth any rum. You can light other things on fire that are 151. Do not light Hamilton 151 on fire, because Hamilton so graciously, Ed Hamilton brought in a 151 Demerara rum when we couldn't get Lemon Heart 151. It is a great substitute for it, slightly different flavor profile, but it is awesome. I stock both because I never want to be without a black Demerara 151 overproof. I need more ice in here. Here we go. Top that off. Here we have the Jet Pilot. Right? With a little bit of dilution from the water because I haven't been drinking it. This is the Mai-Kai version, or the tribute to the Mai-Kai. Note we wanted something redder. This is definitely a redder cocktail. The Fassionola is definitely giving us that. I'm really interested in tasting this. What do you think? Yes, we should taste this. Swizzle stick. What kind of swizzle stick we want? Alligator? No. Cthulhu? Cthulhu. No. What is this one? This one. Third anniversary party? Third anniversary party was in Kansas City.
Yes.
In March of 2020. It was only 2020.
Yeah.
Just before COVID really became a nasty, horrible thing. And one of the party locations that we had was Tiki Cat. Tiki Cat was named in like 2017, 2016, something along those lines. #1 tiki bar in the country. Their drinks were phenomenal. Their artwork and the location, and it was just great. Sadly, they are no longer in business. And we are hoping at some point that they will move to some other location.
Once
yes.
the after times occur.
There is some amazing artwork at Tiki Cat.
And hopefully they were able to get all the artwork and
like off the walls and stuff.
Right. But they had a giant swizzle stick. We have pictures by the giant swizzle stick.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you're not getting any more of this.
Wow. Yes, I know that was an That's a deliberate I need to pause and think. What do I think about this drink? The raspberry is a little more pronounced than I want in this.
It is a very different drink. I would not call this a pilot.
The end notes are the same. You get that Angostura and absinthe are the same.
But the front notes are not.
This version, honestly, even though there's more of the 151 in this one, the 151 shines through more on that cocktail.
This is very, very alcoholic. This is dangerous.
It has more alcohol in it than this does. It's also a bigger drink. But yeah. In case you're wondering, first drink, test pilot, 3 3/4 ounce total liquid, not including ice. The Jet Pilot, 4 1/2 ounces of cocktail, not including ice. And the Mai-Kai Tribute, #3, clocks in at a whopping 6 ounces plus ice. So, yes.
And how much of that is booze?
I got to do math, so hold on. Let's see.
Oh, no, math.
3/4 and 3/4 is 1 1/2. Plus 2, that's 3 1/2 ounces of booze out of a 6 ounce drink. The Jet Pilot, 1958, is 2 1/2 ounces of booze out of a 4 1/2 ounce drink. So the proportion's actually higher in this cocktail. And in the Test Pilot, the original, only 3 3/4 ounce total drink, but 2 1/4 ounces of that, well over half, is alcohol. Although it's lower proof alcohol, and a good portion of that is this. The glass that the Tribute is in is a Tony's on the Pier mug. This is a double rocks glass from Tony's on the Pier. And Tony's on the Pier is in Redondo Beach, California. I've only been there once, but I was there in the Redondo Beach area for work, and that provided me an opportunity to see
with one of my bridesmaids.
To drink with one of my wife's bridesmaids and one of our oldest and dearest friends from our undergraduate years, and we had a great time. They claim to have made more Mai Tais than perhaps any other bar in existence. Not sure that's true, and I've had better Mai Tais, but we're not going to talk about whether or not I've had better Mai Tais. Of course we've had better Mai Tais. Hello? I like my Mai Tais, okay? So there you have it. We have 3 different versions of the Pilot cocktail. We have the Test Pilot, 1941. We have the Jet Pilot, Steve Crane, 1958. And then we have as close a recreation as the guys over at Atomic Grog could get to a version of the Mai-Kai's Jet Pilot. I should point out that this...
And we have a pilot.
And we have a pilot online. We have Dave Heinsohn online, pilot instructor. And should point out, this is that drink over there that's now being downed by my wife, despite the fact that it's got how much alcohol in it? That drink is, I think, circa 2000. Yes, who knew? I put it in my notes. Circa 2012, version 3. They did a slight variation on it. There was version 3.5, and I think they are up to version 7. If you want to dig into watching individuals try and recreate a flavor, texture, and color profile of a cocktail, Atomic Grog is the place to go. These guys, they are dedicated to doing this. And I just want to go to the Mai-Kai, make a couple of drinks prior to going to the Mai-Kai according to the Atomic Grog, and see how well they do. Because I don't know. I've never been to the Mai-Kai. Darn it. But we'll get there eventually. So there you have it. 3 pilot drinks and an aviation. I hope you guys have had fun. If you have had fun, like this video, like the video as it comes up, like the webpage, Lovecraft Cocktails, like the tentacles. I don't know how you're going to like the tentacles, but like the tentacles. How about that? Ta-da! Look, tentacles. I'm being attacked by the tentacles. No, I'm not, but I'm going to have a drink anyway. The tentacles. If you missed the first part of the broadcast, we got these vinyl tentacles and put them on the wall for behind the bar. Off of eBay. Some guy selling them off of eBay, and they went on actually pretty easily, and I just think they look really kind of cool. What do you think? Once again, I hope you're enjoying this. I'm having fun. It's a brand new year. Let's keep drinking. Drink responsibly. Be safe out there. Stars coming around to maybe give me another sip of this drink. Maybe. Okay, well, we can actually share a straw. We are married.
We are. So we will...
each other. To each other. Should point that out. Yeah, that's an important point.
Mwah. Now we're going to be cute.
Yay. In prepping for tonight, I realized that I was a little light on both lime and lemon. Mm-hmm. And I realized one of the things I have not done is shown essentially my technique, or what is a proper technique for juicing. And so I wanted to make sure that I got that done. Proper technique for juicing. There are so many articles on how to juice, and there are so many people that have made a study of how to juice.
So, for example, Chris that does the tequila at
she
Museum.
Does it too. She did an Not she did an You heard that.
At Museum of Distilled Spirits swears that you shouldn't use any juicers. You should use your hand strength and juice by hand. And I'm like, that might be fine for someone besides me, but my hand strength after years of carpal tunnel is not, I would get very little.
I think it would also depend on whether or not you are making a cocktail or you are making cocktails for a party.
Right.
I'm not going to use my own hand strength for making
lime
juice for a party.
I have a video on Lovecraft Cocktails of party prep, which is my whole how I juice with the electric juicer and stuff for parties, because I'm making
Lots of
huge
juice.
things of, the whole
Huge.
Choya bottles.
Huge.
We've been watching
BattleBots.
BattleBots,
Yep.
and Huge is one of the BattleBots.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, there's a difference between if
we
you're
don't
prepping,
we don't like hypershock, just in case you're hypershock bad.
prepping for a
There's
party.
esoteric for you. BattleBots reference this season and last season. We like Huge. We don't like hypershock.
Right. So there's a difference between if you're making for one drink or if you're making for a party. Because when we're making for a party, I'm juicing a flat of limes.
So if you don't care about juicing, or you're thinking, wow, how much detail could there possibly be about juicing that matters? Honestly, there's not a lot. I mean, if you just take limes, you cut them in half, you squeeze them, you get a certain amount of juice, and you'll be fine. Dave Arnold, Jeffrey Morgenthaler, Meehan. I don't remember Meehan's first name. Daniel? No, that doesn't seem right. All have suggestions on how to juice, how to get the most juice out of your limes, your citrus. Jim Meehan. Pretty much everybody agrees that with citrus, in particular limes and lemons, that juicing them and then letting them sit for an hour or two is optimal. They do need to sit for a little bit before you are actually using them. Orange juice, grapefruit juice, not true. Juice pretty much as close to when you are going to use it as you possibly can. And they generally don't keep, but as long as you are keeping the amount of oxygen in contact with the juice as low as possible, they will keep at least for a few days and be perfectly fine. You can also jazz up a juice. So I did that with the lemon juice. I had a little bit of lemon juice left from a couple of days ago, so it was losing a bit of its oomph and a bit of its punch. So what I did is I just put some more lemon juice, freshly squeezed lemon juice in this about an hour before we did our broadcast, because I needed that spark for the aviation. This is not the way to juice. This is the way I juice. This is not even the way Star juices. Different. Take lime. What I do generally is I will take the top and the bottom off of the lime and then cut the lime in half. I think it's Morgenthaler that recommends doing it lengthwise. I've just found that doing it lengthwise doesn't get nearly the same amount of juice out, so there. So what you are left with is two halves of your lime that look something like this. So there's a big half, smaller half, and this part has the top cut off of it. If you look at a juicer, a hand juicer like this, you might be tempted to go, oh, well, this fits neatly in just like this. You put the small end in here, and then you would squeeze, right? That makes perfect sense, except it's completely and utterly wrong. What you want to do is do this inverse. So the wide end goes into the shallow strainer, and then this will close, and you are going to clamp shut on that. For almost all of your citrus juices, you have pulp, you have seeds, you don't want those to wind up in your juice. So what do? Strain it. And here is my simple straining rig for juicing when I'm preparing these Sunday broadcasts. So I take just like a little bowl like this, just a little guy, and take a hand strainer, like a tea strainer, and I just set that in there. Balances nicely. My lime half or lemon half or orange quarter or whatever it is goes in here. Again, larger side down. And then I am just going to squeeze shut. You get a spurt of juice. I always turn it on its side just in case there's a little bit of juice coming out. And if I'm juicing a lot of these, I will put a trash can right here in front of me, which you can't see. So I'm going to move the trash can over here. Because if you're doing this right, you can actually just pop that open, just snap it open, and it'll drop the shell right into the trash can, and then you just go on to the next one, next one, next one. So there's a lime that has just been juiced. Strainer goes away. And this lime juice, if you want, you can double strain it. I mean, you're not going to get any more real straining because you've already strained it through that same strainer. But here's my lime juice container. Stick a funnel in it. Pour this in there. There you go. Stick it in the fridge. It will keep a little bit longer than it would ordinarily sitting out on the counter. There you go. That's how to juice. You can, if you want to try and maximize the amount of juice you get out of it, you can roll your lime to try and break up the internal structure. I think Dave Arnold in Liquid Intelligence did a study of this and found that the percentage of liquid that he got was within error tolerance bars, whether he rolled them or not.
Some people like to put them into the freezer for.
Yeah, okay, so
10
this
to
is
15
one that I
minutes.
completely disagree with. I think it's Jeff Morgenthaler that says, yeah, you can freeze your citrus, pull it out, and let it come to room temperature and juice it, and it'll be perfectly fine. I've done that. It tastes nasty. Don't do that. Oh, if you want to get limes or lemons, or for that matter, fruit and produce cheaply, Asian or international markets, I don't know if it's true everywhere, but man, in the DC metro area, cheaper, it's fresher, it's cheaper, larger quantities for the same price, i.e. cheaper. You know, I don't have to worry about picking up some bananas from Costco and having them be green, black, which just seems to happen. Pick them up from the Asian market, and they're great, they're fine. Cheers to you guys. Thank you for putting up with us. We have fun doing this. It keeps us sane.
And intoxicated.
Sign off. You can like us or not at this point.